Yes.
This meeting is being recorded.
I don't like her voice very much. All right, folks. So I appreciate y'all taking out some time. You're interested in hearing about heading up north, heading up to do bigger mountains. For folks, if you haven't hung out with me, my name is Janice May. I lead Hartford area hiking and am happy to share my experiences and what I'll call a resume. If you decide as you're kind of going on this adventure that maybe you're going to hike with other people, which I strongly recommend. You don't be stuck to my schedule. But if you're going to do an AMC hike, if you're going to do a people with Boston or whatnot, do me a favor and ask them for their resume. I have found a lot of problems with people, especially like in meetup land, not the Adirondack group, not AMC, but the only requirement to be a meetup hike leader is to pay the bill for the site. That's it. There's no other requirements than that. So ask those people, like, what's your experience? Do you have first aid? Have you ever been out of state? Have you ever, that kind of stuff. So if they don't want to answer you, then I wouldn't go anywhere with them, strenuous or scary. I've been in meetup a while, 2007, maybe. Been heading to the White Mountains since 2009. I started doing a couple of things with people and then up in New Hampshire and didn't think I could do it. And I kind of dropped out. I didn't go back for a while. A couple of years. I actually gave away all my maps. I'm like, oh, there's no way I'm going to hike these crazy mountains. Now, the thing is, the very first mountain that I tried was Mount Washington. And I didn't know what I didn't know. And after having that experience kind of made me say, there's got to be a better way to get people prepared for this. I work as a teacher. Don't hold that against me. High school kids. And so I've kind of come up with a system, a plan to try and kind of give you good information, but also give you progressive hikes that start off easy and then they get a bit harder. I also have a few things I'm going to change up this year on the list just due to experiences that I've had recently. So I've been missing snow a great deal. So I've been going to New Hampshire just to hike in the snow. Which has made me very happy. I just came back from ice castles and doing one of the 52s with a view called Mount Pemigewasset or Indian Head. I've been down around the Ossipee Range, which is near Lake Winnipesaukee, and done Mount Roberts and Mount Shaw. Those are also 52s with a view. So up north, everybody's got a list. Everything is put on some kind of crazy list. And it's up to, you can do a list or you can just go and have fun and just try out stuff. One thing I heard when I went to the ceremony for the 48, which are the 48 4,000 footers in New Hampshire, which I happily finished, that once you do those in New Hampshire, it's like a gateway drug is what AMC calls it. And after that, you kind of just want to hike more stuff. So there are 48 4,000 footers in New Hampshire. Then there is what's called the New England 100, which is kind of the next step down. They're about 3,500 and taller. And those are also in Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Then there's the New England 67, which are the 4,000 footers, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, which my goal is to finish those this year. I don't remember what number I'm on, but I have like 11 left, 10 left, something like that. But I'm up in Maine to finish. So then if you add in the Adirondacks, then that becomes a whole nother list of 4,000 footers plus the Adirondacks. So you can get list crazy if you want. And right now there's everybody up in New Hampshire is hiking the winter 4,000 footers, because that's another list. So you can do them in all 4 seasons. You can grid them. You can, it's crazy. The lists are insane what you can do. Somebody just finished recently. They had literally hiked every single trail in the White Mountains. It was like 579 miles. Good for them. It's a lot of time. And then of course, my other big question, whenever I meet these people out in the mountains, because they're wonderful and I love meeting and talking to people on the trails, but you almost want to ask, like, do you have a job? Like, cause you must not, if you can hike every day or whatever. But I think wonderful accomplishments from people. So there's another event that goes on up there in July. It's called Seek the Peak. And Seek the Peak is an event that the Mount Washington Observatory runs. And anybody that geeks out to weather stuff, and I'll show you later in my slides, it's really an awesome organization to belong to. And it sounds crazy, it's a weather station, but it is privately funded. It's not a governmental agency. Also, the Mount Washington Road to drive up there is also a private road. And it's run by a family, and that's why you pay a lot to drive up it, but they maintain it. So Seek the Peak is one of their big fundraisers. It used to be centered around only hiking Mount Washington. Now they've sort of opened it up to, you can hike whatever you want and or go canoeing or go rollerblading, but they're just trying to get people outside. But you can raise money for the observatory. And if you raise a minimum of $300, you get a shirt and a backpack and a whole bunch of other swag. And I've participated in it since 2009. Last year, I messed up and missed signing up for it. I missed buying my $300 t-shirt, but I have all the shirts from 2009 up to last year. And just because I like to give to that organization. They also do, I know one of our great friends that hikes with us, Susan, you can go volunteer up there and you can stay for a week and cook for the crew. And it's like, if weather's your thing, ask for a tour to go up there because it's pretty amazing, their weather station. But anyways, I used to run this event, Always Seek the Peak weekend, which is the third weekend in July. So, and I'll talk a little bit about the schedules because I've kind of shifted the date for a big mountain hike up there, just based on summer planning and my silly goals. So I'll let you know what I'm doing and what I'm proposing that folks are working toward this year. So I don't see anybody else waiting over here. So I'm going to, what I just need you guys to do is let me know if I got the right thingy out here. Let's see, 1, 2, 2. I'm hoping it's this one that I got up. There we go. All right. Is everybody able to see that? See my little, okay. So this is my little slideshow presentation about going to New Hampshire. So I've got 2 dates listed there. One is Saturday, July 15th for one event, which we'll talk about, and one is Friday, the 18th. So you've got options. It also depends on what you have for time and what you want to share, what availability you have to take off. Because I know not everybody is as lucky as me and has the whole summer off to like go bomb around. Pictures here for you is the one on your left. That is the final pitch. It's only a half mile long to the summit of Mount Washington. That's what the terrain looks like. It's called the Boulder Field. And the one thing that I've always cautioned people when I've taken them up north is New Hampshire miles and Connecticut miles are super duper different. They are not the same thing. And that being said, you want to understand the terrain you're going to do. The middle picture is going up a trail that's called Falling Water, and that's part of the Franconia Ridge. And within that, you've got, it's basically you climb up a waterfall, but it's beautiful and it's amazing. And that's part of the Lincoln Lafayette Loop that I've had the pleasure to climb up. The last picture is the last time I was on Mount Washington, not this August, but the August before. And that was my 10th time on top because I've run Mount Washington so many times. So now the girls who are in the picture, Colleen and Kathy, kind of stuck with me when I finished my 48. So they gave up the Mount Washington hike to go on my 48th hike. So I felt like I owed them Washington. So we went up and did Washington. Um, so some more, let's see if this will switch for me. So some more scenic pictures. This is actually Franconia Ridge. And in the picture on the left, myself and Kathy were headed up to Lincoln. And then the other one, the one on the right, is looking back where we came from. So the mountain all the way to the left is Mount Flume, and the really pointy one is Mount Liberty. So this is all on the Franconia Ridge. Not part of what I'm offering this summer, but just to give you, I try to give you views about actually what the trail conditions look like up there, because it's not squishy and flat and comfortable. New Hampshire isn't called the granite state for no reason. It's a whole lot of rocks. So I want to make sure people understand where you're going spatially. I literally have had people back when I first started doing this sign up who didn't know where New Hampshire was. I'm laughing when I say that, but they really didn't know. So you've got New Hampshire, you've got a New England, where the A is actually the pin for Mount Washington. So it's about 3.5 hours away. Up in more in the higher part of New Hampshire, but way above Lake Winnipesaukee is where the White Mountain Forest is. And it usually, we tell people not to go, the GPS always wants you to go up 93 closer to Boston, but there's always a lot of traffic there. We tend to drive up 91 and then cut across. We find it's a little more efficient. But then the map of New Hampshire just gives you some of the bigger destinations. So this is all the high mountain maps or high mountain peaks that includes Vermont, New Hampshire. It's got some of New York in there too, but it kind of shows you that whole like Appalachian mountain range. And down at the bottom, they put in Greylock, they've put in Monadnock. Those are two that are, and also a Scutney. Those are ones that are on my training hike list. So the reality is also to really train and do really well for this, you're absolutely positively going to have to drive. There's only so much we can do. And even I get some people that complain about driving out to Bear Mountain in Salisbury, because from Hartford, it's about an hour and a half. And people are like, oh, it's really far away. It's like New Hampshire's 3.5 hours away. So again, just another logistical kind of commitment you want to make. Okay. So this is what I have on my big plan right now. July 15th, which is a Saturday. My base for that is going to be Gorham. So Gorham is one of the more northern towns. And the reason that I'm doing that, and I'm going to put these all up as meetup hikes, but I am probably going to vet out folks that are just like, ooh, a hike, and sign up for it. And don't, like, I haven't met you on a training hike, or you haven't been working towards stuff. And here's the deal. It's not that I'm snotty or anything. It's just, I don't want you to waste your time, your money, your vacation time, and go do something and have a miserable experience. So that's why we spend from now until July, August, really like training to do this. I'm lucky enough that I get to like big hike with big packs all year long. So it's not like, and we didn't really have a bad winter. So hopefully people have been out and about. It's the folks when we have a really snowy, cold winter who kind of hang out and really, they're like, I haven't been outside in months. And then they just want to climb Washington. That's like that's not gonna be a fun experience. So the 15th, the base is Gorham. And I don't have a map specifically of Gorham, but the reason that it's up north is that's the weekend that I'm trying to finish my 67th 4,000 footer. So it's in Old Speck, which is in Maine. So that's the closest town to Maine. Now, if you're interested in being up there that weekend, but you want to hike something else, I am absolutely thrilled to help you plan out anything else you want to do. give you the maps, give you the deal. Somebody was asking me this past weekend. They said, how do you remember all this stuff? Like, do you journal things? I don't know why. It's some weird thing in my head, but I don't always remember the dates of when I went, but I remember all the trails and I remember what it was like and stuff. So, and I've learned a lot because I ask a ton of questions from the people I've had the wonderful pleasure to hike with, and people have been so generous about sharing what they know. So their information about trails or their experiences, especially if they're different from mine, I suck all that up so that I can, impart it to somebody else. So in Gorham, there's a handful of hotels, there's food. But like I said, my destination that day is going to be a mountain in Maine called Old Speck. August 18th is probably the one that most people might be super interested in. Okay, so we're going to be in Crawford Notch. And the goal right now is to offer up to everybody training is Mount Jefferson. So along the presidential range, left to right, the big one is Madison, then it's Jefferson. Then it's Adams, then it's Jefferson, then it's Washington. So I have a plan that day with some other hikers to do Jefferson. Then we're going to keep going and go to Washington and then stay at Lake of the Clouds that night and keep going down the ridge. So if folks are really interested in doing Jefferson, you would do it as an out and back. So you would head up Jefferson and then turn around and come back exactly the way you came. If you're interested in Washington, we can have a discussion about that, because you can do Jefferson, Washington. I'll get you sent the right way to head back, but there will be a car spot involved. But again, these are like really picayune details that we can work on. Right now, I'm just more concerned, like, are you interested in going? And are you, do you want to put in the time to feel comfortable going? Okay. So what I tell folks is, if you're headed to Crawford Notch, I kind of push you down toward North Conway. And down in North Conway, I've stayed at both the Starlight and the New England Inn. There's also the Swiss Chalet. And my recommendation for this is, if you're going to book dates, and I'm sorry, August 18th is a Friday. So you'd have to come up on Thursday, stay Friday to be ready to hike Friday. And I always say you should probably look at the cancellation policy, make sure you're 24, 48 hours, unless you're like, I'm going to make a week of it and hang out up there and do an Airbnb. Because if you choose to stay with AMC at the Highland Center, it's about, if somebody knows a better number, tell me. The last I heard, it was like $120 a night. And that's to stay in a bunk room with three other people. And you have to cancel 2 weeks ahead of time. So after 2 weeks, they give you a credit that you can use, but you don't get your money back. So just think about that as far as your commitment. I typically rent properties up there, but I'm committed to go. So that's my thing. And then for either of these, we can, we'll try to connect the night after that hike. The one for the 15th for sure up in Gorham. The one on the 18th, I won't be back down to the valley until Saturday, the 19th. Okay. Now, so big thing for me is also equipment for all the stuff you'll need. And if you've never had anything bad happen to you, you'll think my list is insane. But what typically happens, especially in the middle of the summer, is the valley will be awesome. And there will be, 75 degrees and you're in shorts and you're like, this is great. I have been on the top of most of these in July and had it snow, had it be sleet, had 70-mile-an-hour winds, had it rain. It's a whole giant weather system up there that Mount Washington and Mount Lafayette catch. And when they catch it, everything hangs there. So you have to be ready. Most importantly, I would say the biggest term is you need to have enough stuff out there to stay outside overnight, because to have Northwoods Law come get you is not 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It's also, they don't just send you a helicopter. So, and if you did want a helicopter ride, it's about $19,000 billed to you. So, and I'll explain about the hike safe cards in a minute about deferring those costs. But what this is kind of like my standard thing. And if you've ever looked at REIs, like the, the 10 things you should have and whatnot, this is kind of my thing. So definitely 2 liters of water in something you can refill, which would also include maybe like a small Sawyer water filter. Problem is, on Jefferson, Washington, there really isn't water. Now, if you make it to the top of Washington, there's plenty of water. It's awesome because there's a really cold faucet. 2,000 calories of food minimum. I know everybody's got their thing like, ew, I'm not hungry, but you have to eat all day. You're burning calories all day. And if you're going to do something like Washington, minimum, you're going to burn between 25 and 3,500 calories. And you have to figure out your own system. I know for me, I front load the day. So like an hour before the hike, I'm just munching the whole time, like high protein stuff. And even when I get out of the car, I might eat something else. Like, you don't want to eat and jump on the trail. You want stuff to be digesting so it turns into power. But you have to be munching all day. And you'll find too, when we do some of the bigger hikes, if you come on my training hikes, if you haven't been eating, I'm going to bug you. If you haven't been drinking, I'm going to bug you. Because by the time you feel hunger pains or you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated and undernourished. So anybody thinking they're going to hike to diet, not for these events. Okay. This is the kind of thing you just want to pig out. You just want to eat a ton. Raincoats, rain pants, which also work as wind protectors, fleece, extra shirt, extra socks. A pack cover is something that if you all of a sudden get caught in rain, snow, sleet, keeps your pack kind of dry. Money, your identification, a headlamp. Always have a headlamp. Test your batteries before you go. Now I have waterproof matches on there, which kind of got laughed at. I was on a really great call last weekend with some folks in Vermont, and I'll talk about that later. But you have other systems, like even just using a lighter and stuff like that. Those things are waterproof. Compass and a map. You want to not be 100% relying on your phone unless you've got backup energy stuff in case your battery dies. And you also need to make sure you download your maps while you still have internet access. Do not get to the trailhead. I'll tell Jefferson trailhead, there's no service there. So if you haven't downloaded your map down in the valley, you're kind of flying by the seat of your pants. A whistle. So if you get into trouble or you can't see the group, you can only yell so loud. It doesn't take a lot of air to blow a whistle to call for help. So that's why we carry whistles. Sock liners go along with extra socks, just in case you get sweaty feet or you do step into something wet and your feet are wet. Electrolytes and salt replacements, anything like if you like Gatorade, Powerade, that stuff is awesome. I carry like a powdered stuff. I also find I have issues with cramps sometimes when you start to get dehydrated. So that's where the salt replacements come in. Sunglasses, sunblock, your medication, space blanket, which are those little things that I think all of us have, that I know we all have one that we've never opened, but it's the foily looking space blanket. So you can cover yourself if again something happens and you have to take cover for a large amount of time. Multi-tools are great. So the thing that has the pocket knife, the screwdriver, and all the Inspector Gadget things. Towel, bandana, hiking poles. Now there's always a lot of debate about poles. I don't care if you like them or not. Like if you're like, I don't use hiking poles, I would have hiking poles on this adventure, because it's great to have 4 points of contact. Again, as you start to get tired and have to go down some of those rocky situations I showed you, at least you can have the poles kind of help lower you down. Get the retractable ones. As long as they retract or fold up and you can put them on your pack. Almost everybody's pack has got the straps that hold poles on. So I would do that. A hat for sure, because if you're up there on a great sunny day, you can get crispy. Your camera, your watch, your insect repellent. Now, a closed cell pad is just a foamy pad, and you can buy them from Thermarest that will accordion up. So they're like a 22-inch square, but they accordion up, and it's to sit on so that you're not sitting on rocks. If anybody's mom or had a mom or a grandmother that told them if you sat on cold ground, you'd catch cold. It's not so much that, it's just that cold ground will also suck the heat out of you. So if you were to get hurt or you had to sit down and rest for a while, you're going to get cold or sitting on a rock. And then I say down here, a pack big enough to carry it. So what I've told folks in the past that were kind of starting this adventure was get your materials out first, lay them out in your bed, all of this stuff, and then look at how big it is before you go buy a pack. I recommend nothing smaller than like a 32-liter pack, because you won't have enough room to carry stuff. Because also, if you're going to use a water bladder system, that thing takes up like 5 by 14 inches once you fill it. So that also takes up volume in your pack. And I always recommend, because we don't really have, I mean, I think the closest Eastern Mountain Sports now is down in Waterford. But we have a couple of REIs here, and the guys at REI in West Hartford are awesome. They fill the packs full of weight. They let you try one on. I think not last year, but the year before, I wanted a smaller pack. I must have tried on 22 packs. I tortured this guy, but they're really helpful and they show you how to adjust them. And if that is something that you're like, I don't remember how to adjust this, I can get you adjusted with a pack if I see on the trail. All right. So the last thing is a hike safe card for New Hampshire. So these are my two favorite New Hampshire officers, Officer Mike Mancini and now Sergeant Glenn Lucas. I've never met them in person, and I hope I don't. I don't want them looking down at me while I'm in a crumpled hump on a trail. But the Fish and Game Service up there, they are our rescuers. And if you go to the Fish and Game website, they now actually have a link that goes right to the Hike Safe card. And what a Hike Safe card is, it costs you $25 for the year. Unfortunately, their year is January 1st to December 31st. So, I mean, unless you're going, not going up, if you're not going up there until July or until I take you to Monadnock or one of the 52s with a view, you can wait to buy it, but it still expires December 31st. But it's kind of your get out of jail free card. So every time they go on a rescue, so let's say your cell phone, you trip, you fall, you can't get up, or you're really sore, or you think you broke something, you 911 and call these guys. It's going to take them hours to get there, but depending on where you are, there's also a ton of rescue volunteers, like the Pemigewasset volunteers. Those guys are amazing. But they will hike in, they can carry you out, they can do first aid for you. I've seen a lot of carry-offs on Monadnock, which is southern New Hampshire. I've been part of carry-outs. I've been part of hike back-ins to go look for people. So these are our guys. But what Hike Safe does is every time they go out to help you, they have to write a report. They have to kind of do an incident report on it. If they deem that really it was legit, you had everything you needed, you looked at trail conditions, you had the right gear, you looked at the weather report, everything was a go, and you slipped on a rock and you fell, no problem. They'll come get you. If they decide that you were a knucklehead and you showed up in Crocs and a water bottle and shorts and a t-shirt, and now you're up in the boulder field and a weather front comes in and now you're hypothermic and you're calling on your cell phone for a helicopter, they will charge you for that. They will charge you for stuff where you're like, it's just you being a doofus. So there's a lot of things to consider when you go to New Hampshire, and most of it is weather. I mean, weather's the biggest thing. So that's just your get out of free card. The talk I was on last week, they usually get anywhere from 180 to $220,000 in hike safe cards, which then they put back into their rescue equipment and things like that. So I require you to have one if you're going to go hike in New Hampshire. Okay, next one. Now, weather forecasts, because we love the weather. So there's two different places that I go to look at things. You can go to the Mount Washington weather site, MWOBS, and I recommend becoming a member. I mean, I am. And what's kind of cool is they always have a live camera on, so you can see what's going on the top of Washington any time of day or night if you want. The last cold stretch that we had was pretty intense. And I think it was funny because there's a Facebook page, the 4,000 footers. Every single person that I interact with on that site had posted the exact same thing from Mount Washington when the wind chill was negative 101. I don't even know what that is. Is that like flash freezing? I mean, but that last stretch that came through when it was so bitter cold that Saturday here, quadruple that. And that's how it was up in New Hampshire. But that's a great resource. You just have to read a lot of their stuff and they will also tell you when they're going to update the next time. So they're going to say, next report at 7 p.m. So you'll know, like if you turn it on at 10 a.m. and it says next report at 7, well, what they're saying, you kind of have to ride out with until 7. Okay. The other one that I use is this mountain forecast, because it will show you the mountain you want to go on, and it'll give you an hour by hour stretch of what's happening with the temperatures, the wind direction, just so you get a better sense of what's happening, where it is you want to go, and also time of day. So for us in the summertime, sometimes we're watching for those later afternoon thunderstorms. I want to know what time they think it's coming in to know what our window is to get below tree line. So those are the two that I use all the time. That's those are my go-tos all the time. So again, couple more trails. The picture on the left is actually me and my friend Beth. This is actually headed up the summit of Jefferson. And the picture in the middle is on the way up Jefferson. From, I think 2018 or 19. And then the other picture is this is up on the Presidential Ridge. This is after you come off Jefferson and you're headed toward Mount Washington. And again, it looks kind of cute, right? It's, but you're up in the Alpine zone. So all that green fuzzy stuff is very slow growing Alpine foliage that grows so super slow that you're not allowed off trail. So you have to stay on your little trail there when you go. All right. This was last year's ad for Seek the Peak. So I apologize. I did this year. It is it should still be the 16th, 17th, or 14th, 15th. And again, you can go on this website, but be careful when you go on, because if you just type in Seek the Peak, I remember the first year I did it, I was looking at something in Washington State until I realized, because there's so many Seek the Peak. So make sure you type in Seek the Peak, New Hampshire, to get the right website. But this is a lot of what their graphics looks like. So if you're interested in contributing, if you want to raise money for them, you can do it. And like I've told people in the past, if it's Seek the Peak weekend and we're going up Washington, because they've broadened it into trail running, yoga, hiking, fishing, they just want you to get outside. It's not like the mountain is closed unless you have a ticket from Seek the Peak. So like I said, it's just a good organization that I promote. This is a list of hikes that I have done in the past, kind of in kind of like easier to harder. And I also have write-ups on these. So you don't necessarily have to, well, let's do it this way. If you don't want the hike information, maybe send me a note and just say, yeah, I don't need to be on the list or whatever. If you've put your stuff in the chat, it means I'm going to put you in this year's group chat or group emails. And for each of these, I have a paragraph write-up, I have a map. It's not step by step, but if you've never been there, I'm kind of saying the trails to your left, once you pass the big tree and the bear, and it's so I have that for many of these, and the ones that I don't, I will fluff up again. And it kind of peaks out with us going to Monadnock, because that can be a very challenging hike. It is the second most hiked mountain on Earth after Mount Fuji in Japan. So I might throw in a couple of different ones that are a little bit of a further drive, just because I've had some really cool experiences in the Asapi range. And again, I will put those out and talk to you guys about it moving forward, seeing how the group connects. So these are the trail maps I grabbed for Mount Washington. So the one on the left is what we're talking about, is going up what's called Caps Ridge. So, and you can see there's this maze in the map, there's a maze of trails that head up. What's on the top part of that is all the ways to get up to the like Mount Adams and stuff. My goal is to have us go up Caps Ridge. Okay. And if you look at the mileage, right, it looks like, oh, that's all, because it's only like 2.5 miles up here to the summit. But I'll be honest, I lied to my wonderful friend Colleen when we did this. It is on the terrifying 25. I don't know why. I wouldn't call it that, but somebody made that list and put it on there. So if you wanted to park at the Jefferson pass up here and do this as an out and back, that's one option. The other option is, if you get to the top of Jefferson, you're like, I think I want to try Washington. Then you would come straight down the map on the Gulf Side Trail. We do have to go around Mount Clay, which is obnoxious because it's another thing that doesn't count for anything, and it's still over 5,000 feet. Then we're going to come to an intersection for the Jewel Trail. If at the Jewel Trail, you're like, you know what, I'm good, that's the way you would go down, is the Jewel Trail. And again, I will get very specific instructions for anybody who wants to do that. But if your car is at Caps Ridge, we need to talk about parking logistics. If you think, no, I'm good, I want Washington. Washington is 1 more mile and another 1,000 feet. So we did that when we did this hike, and we all looked up and went, well, we could go do Washington. But again, you can't say it's only a mile. It's a mile that will kill you. But, so you want to make sure you're ready for that. So we do have a couple of bail points on that. And what I would say is, if anybody says, I'm going to try Mount Washington, then I would have you put your car at the end for that. And only people that are doing out and backs up Jefferson would drive to the trailhead. Okay. I know I'm talking logistics because that's the way my geeky brain works. The map on the right is the map for what's called Old Spec, which is where I'll be on July 15th. And I will offer this up. And this is one of the 4,000 footers, but this one is in Maine. So that's why it's up much further. So the meeting point for that is going to be Gorham on that one. And I'm going to put these up as meetup events. Like I said, I'm just going to set it up so that everybody is on the wait list, just so I make sure that people are good. Okay. All right. Resources. So I have the White Mountain book out, which is an amazing resource if you think you're going to go do anything in the White Mountains, because it's not just the 4,000 footers, it's all the trails in the White Mountain system. The new edition just came out. I think it's the 31st. What's mine? Mine's the 30th. So I think the 31st edition just came out. Every once in a while, they move a trail, they change something, but it's never like completely crazy. If you're an AMC member, you can order it off the AMC website and get the discount for that. If you can't, I don't think you can get the discount like at Barnes and Noble or anything like that. But if you're headed north and you can grab it at like the Highland Center or something, you can get a discount on it. I would order it though. The pictures on the right are, there's a wonderful map maker, cartographer in Lincoln, and he makes these awesome maps. And it has all this information. This happens to be the one for Mount Washington and the surrounding trails. So I have these, I ordered them from him. I work with him a bunch on getting resources. The only place you can buy these is either at one of the huts for AMC, or another place called the Mountain Wanderer. He has a storefront in Lincoln, New Hampshire, but he does a huge online thing. Or if you want to order it from me, I have them. They're $4 and then $1 for shipping. And I'm going to give you some information. So if you'd like one of these cool Mount Washington maps, because it's very concise, it's not the whole ridge, it's just Washington and the trails going off of it, and then a lot of really great information connected to it. Okay, so this gives you some kind of location as far as where all the 4,000 footers are. So the little part there where it says see enlarged shows you where physically in the state you are. And then this shows you where they all live. So if you look on the map where it says Route 2 and you see Mariah, kind of that intersection up there where the gray is the roads, that's where Gorham is. So that's the thing for the 15th that I'm going to propose. All right. And then here, and since this has all of my info on here, so my address, the email I pay attention to the most, I have a couple of Gmails, but I forget to look at them. My PayPal is my first and last name, Venmo. If anybody's interested in a Mount Washington map, you can certainly get to me that way. You can also send me a message directly through Meetup. If everybody knows how to do that, if you click on me or anybody, if you click on anybody's profile, what you're going to get is it'll say you can message them. So you can certainly do that if you want. So let me stop sharing on this. Okay. So I know there's kind of a lot of moving parts to kind of what I'm trying to do. And I apologize if you're like overwhelmed, like, oh my God. What you need to worry about right now is I will start posting some of the progressive hikes. I do have a couple of other adventures I'm headed out on, but like I said, I will also give everybody the resource of the training hikes to do. If it's a mountain you've never been to, especially the ones out of state, and you want to wait, you can work things out to work on my dates. That's great. And I certainly, welcome you to do that. If you have questions on stuff, I definitely say, please, reach out and let me know. I was saying, so this is my 30th edition of the White Mountain Guide. And what you get with it is you get this big book. You can see mine's got all these sticky notes of, trying to make sense of things. And then it's got 3 sets of maps with it for this New Hampshire. But these are great. And I used them a lot. But what you want to do, if you're going to be out there, is get this version of the White Mountain set because they're waterproof. So you want waterproof maps for sure. So I use this in my dining room when I'm looking at stuff. I carry these on the trail just because they're waterproof. And then the other thing, like I said, is the Mount Washington map, because I bought a bunch of these from him. Like I said, the waterproof version is 4. And this is really cool because it goes all the way over to Mount Monroe, and it goes all the way over to Jefferson. So for what we're trying to do for a goal, this has got the path of what we're doing. And then it's got all these awesome, I just love all his extra stuff on the back. He's an awesome map maker. I own way too many of his maps from up there. So if that interests you, just send me a message and I will be happy to send you one. I will say that my calendar right now is a little empty. My mom has to have back surgery on March 3rd. So I'm kind of nurse caretaker that first weekend in March. So I have to see how she does after that to start chunking stuff out, because I already have a summer calendar going, because I will be going back to Baxter, which is where Mount Katahdin is. If anybody has a desire for that, reach out to me either through email or on Messenger. And what else are we doing? Going to Maine for a week in June to do those other big 67s. And I don't know, I've got a couple other things going on in there. And definitely trying to get back up to New Hampshire to go clunk around in the snow again, because it was awesome last weekend. Matter of fact, so I don't know if anybody has questions, if there's anything I can answer for you, please speak right up, because like I said, I can talk about this forever. So if there's something you want to know and it's like in your brain, just let me know.
Hi, Janice. This is Mark Lasser. I do have a quick question. When you
Yes.
talk about equipment, you mentioned sock liners.
Yeah.
And liners I know of are like a thin sock material for chafing.
Correct.
Is there something else that you might have been referring to? You mentioned about if you got wet.
Yeah, well, a lot of times what folks just want to make sure that you have the ability to change your socks. So if you do get wet, or if you just have really crazy sweaty feet, if that's, part of your deal, maybe you might want to bring a change of socks. I know whenever we do the Mount Washington hike, I almost recommend people do a complete change of clothes, right down to your underwear, because you're all sweaty, you stop hiking. And I know there's a lot of products like Glide and things like that you can use if your clothes and stuff are wet, but I wear sock liners and wool socks. Doesn't matter the season. Hot summer, I'm in wool socks. We're Darn Toughs or Smart Wool. And I like the sock liners because I don't get blisters with them. If you're experienced and you're like, I don't really like sock liners, that's fine. It's just my big list of stuff that I recommend.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm actually doing the same you are, as using them all the time, and I actually carry a separate set. And in addition, I actually have a plastic bag to go over in case things get really wet.
Oh yeah, thank you for saying that.
If there's something beyond that.
No, thank you for saying that. The other thing I recommend, and I don't know why it's not in here, but in my backpack, because remember I said you can do a pack, what do you call it? You can do a pack cover. They're okay. I have a garbage bag inside all my packs. So I put a heavier garbage bag in, and then I put everything in the garbage bag, and then I close up the garbage bag. So if my pack cover fails, or if I'm just out in wind and rain for a tremendous amount of time, if something happens, and then at least my socks are dry and all that stuff is good. I wouldn't rely on strictly a pack cover. And there's a lot of people I know that have a ton of Ziploc bags, like their whole world's in Ziploc bags in their pack. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. Yep. Yeah, that's a good idea, John, too. Yeah. You can use dry bags. Like if you paddle, use dry bags. That's fine too. If you have good luck with them.
I have one that lines my whole inside of my pack.
That's awesome.
Because the pack liners, they don't work.
Correct.
They look good. That's about it.
Yeah, mine's like lime green, so it looks really cute.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It's never kept anything dry, for sure. And you know what? And the same thing with rain gear. I find like, depending on what you're going to go do, Gore-Tex is the best. Anything made out of Gore-Tex. I honestly do not understand the new phrase of breathable, water resistant. What is that? So Gore-Tex doesn't breathe, so you need like extra layers in there to absorb your own sweat. But as far as any of the raincoats, I don't know if anybody's bought a good raincoat lately, let's put it away, an expensive raincoat. if they're breathable, water resistant, they're not waterproof. And the other thing that I would strongly recommend for any of that kind of gear is if they have zippers in your armpits, because especially if it's a Gore-Tex coat, because you're going to be sweating. You want to let out the hot air. The zippers come down from like here to here. You unzip your pits. It sounds so funny, but you let out that air and that moisture, and you can leave yourself vented like that. But those coats cost much more. You know, a $30 Columbia raincoat, probably not the best. But if you're a fair weather hiker and you're like, I'm not going out there when it's all yucky and wet and blah, blah, forget it. Then a $30 raincoat is fine.
Janice,
Yes.
so when you had your personal info up there, I think I missed your phone number. If you had that,
Sure.
did you have that posted?
Might have. No, I did not put my phone number
Okay.
up there, but you know what's so goofy is my phone number's on the meetup site. Somebody said that to me one day. They were like, do you know your phone number's on the meetup site? And I put it up there years ago and I haven't had anything crazy happen. So, but yeah, if you want to write it down, it's 860-543-4591. And I put it up on hikes just in case people need to, you know, tell me something very important or text me, you know, on the way to the trail or something.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else questions or something you want to know about? And like I said, I'm happy to share. I mean, there's some trips that I do with people that I have really good connections and experience with. So I would not put up Baxter State Park as a meetup. Just because there's too much logistics involved in going there. But if you have some goals, if you're trying to work on something that maybe is a little outside of what we're talking about and you just want some advice, just let me know. But I will put up the old spec hike. I will put up Jefferson/Washington as meetups. And then I'm going to do my best to fill in, minus some other off the grid adventures, with a lot of the training hikes. And I mean, and I'll start again, you know, with ragged and stuff. I'm not just going to like jump in like I'll meet you when it gets scary and interesting, you know. I'll start off with ragged. I'll start off with Hube line. A lot of these are the ones I do a lot anyway, but and if that's totally below you and you're like, I don't need those, then that's fine. You know, I haven't been out to Macedonia in like a year. I haven't been up Bear. Oh, I lie. I was up on Bear in August. So like I've got some good climbs that will be challenging, because not only do you need to climb, but endurance too. I mean, hiking is an endurance sport. I say that to the guy that I train with. He's like, you walk how many miles? Like for how long? You know, so there's some days we're out there 8-9 hours, you know, 10-14 miles. And so it definitely becomes a kind of you know, it has to be endurance, it has to be strength. I usually carry a big pack all the time because I'm always training for something. Like this weekend, I knew I didn't need snowshoes. I lied. 2 weeks ago, I needed snowshoes in New Hampshire, didn't bring them and regretted it. And then this past weekend, I knew I didn't need them, but I still carried them because I was like, I can use the time to train carrying the weight. So I would say if that's one of your goals is, to try to do this, start carrying heavier stuff when you climb, because whatever you just lay out in your bed that's on my list, you have to be able to carry it for a long time. So just think of everything you're doing as training, and the best way to train is water jugs. If they're too heavy, you can drink them. If they're way too heavy, you can empty them out. Don't carry rocks. I've had people do that, load up with rocks. And it's like, where are you going to leave those, along the way? So water jugs is very, very, you can use it for two things, hydration, and you can empty it. So, and even if you're just like, geez, I can't get up on a mountain, then just do the stairs in your house, do the stairs where you work, do, and just start working on those things. It's only February, March. Yeah, you got 6 months.
Hey, everybody. I posted sort of a silly question to the group. I do live in Massachusetts, right across the border, sort of. And just wanted to say that I'm happy to be here. Kind of figured it would be all right if I hopped in.
Of course.
And yeah, I was saying that also there's a lot of great training hikes, just like on the AT, near the AT. There's so much right on my doorstep in the Berkshires,
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, that's a great area to go. And like, that's what I was saying, I might change up my list this year, because I got the chance last year to do Mount Wachusett, and that was super fun. Again, it's a drive, and that's just what I kind of, prepare everybody. It's like, you can only do so much in Connecticut. Our highest mountain is under 2,000 feet. So, you kind of got to drive to go find some elevation. So, but yeah, Dave, if you have any specific ones you like I know
I have a very specific suggestion.
Not Weathersfield. What's the one right on 20 on the AT?
Do you mean 23?
No, on right up from Route 20. And there's a hut up there. I slept up there. What's the name of that?
What town are we talking about? Route 20? I'm having
October
trouble.
Mountain.
October. Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
October's a good one. And then anything
it's like one of my favorite areas. It's one of my favorite areas.
That whole Marble Ledges region that's up, closer to Greylock and stuff. Oh yeah, that whole AT section's great.
Very cool. Yeah, well, I'll think of my suggestions and send them off to you in one group, one lump thing instead of rambling.
No, please, because like I said, I had a new friend turn me on to the 52 with the view list, and when I looked originally, just the name of it sounds so cute, doesn't it? Like, ooh, 52 with the view. Those suckers are hard. I mean, Mount Tremont was this roots rock scramble. It was like doing Spider-Man stuff. So the views are amazing. They're totally worth it. But I'm thinking about throwing a couple of those on there, like, so some new offerings to go to this year, because I know my crew who's been hiking with me, we've done Monadnock, we've done Ascutney, we've done Greylock. So I might throw some new and exciting things in the mix this year.
Very cool. Last quick question. I honestly didn't think I'd ask this, but it occurred to me. I lead hikes through a meetup group that's sort of to the Berkshires. Can I drop it in the group? I don't know if anyone ever cares to hike up here.
No, absolutely. I love it when people are members of like 22 hiking groups. I mean, hey, that's the only reason I ended up near Lake Winnipesaukee was there's the Northeast Adventure group. They posted a beginner winter hike, and I'm like, ooh, I'm in. And I drove up there just to hike in snow. So yes, please. I love, promoting other people's meetup groups. So yep, throw it in there.
Cool. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'd like to know how and when do we sign up for your training hikes?
So what'll happen with the training hikes is I'm going to put them up as meetups. Once I get my calendar under control. And basically you just sign up for them just like you would a regular meetup. Because what'll happen is over the next couple of days, Colleen and I'll pull together this list of who's on right now. And most of the time what'll happen too is people will add, like they'll reach out to me directly and they'll add on, because I'm going to put this recording up as a meetup event. But I'm going to put the date on it as August 18th. So it means it'll just sort of be up all summer. So people can click on the YouTube anytime they want and watch it. So sometimes people watch it because they couldn't make it tonight. And then they'll email me and say, and I'll put that in the thing, like, please email or message me if you'd like to be included in the group information. So people will add to it. But my point about that was that way I can kind of check the list. So if I have people who sign up and I've got 10 people from this group sitting on the wait list, I'd rather have you guys who've already expressed an interest. I'd rather move you onto the hike, and folks that are just like, ooh, it's a hike,
So if I'm talking to you now, I'm on the list.
If you gave us your information, Frank.
If
you gave us your email address, then you can be on the list.
I think I did. I hope I did.
Oh, good. Okay.
All right,
I,
Well,
I
thank you.
can't, I can't see the chat right now. Colleen's watching that for me. So,
okay.
I can't,
Well, I'll make
see.
sure I'm on the list. I'll make sure I got on there.
Please, yes, please do that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure,
That-
Janice, if you had said that because there's not too many on there. So yeah, if you put your information in, Janice sends out really detailed emails about what's coming up in the calendar.
Yeah, right now I can see there's 36 things in the chat. But I don't know how many of those are everybody's addresses and stuff. So yeah, so if that's something that you want to be on the list, that's fine. If you're like, I'm
Yeah.
going to think about that, that's fine too. You can also give us the information. Maybe you go on 1 or 2 hikes and you're like, you guys are awesome, and I'm not
Mhm.
going to go this year. You can always tell us to take you off it too. If you're like, I don't want those crazy emails from those crazy people.
No, I definitely want to be on it.
Cool. Okay. Yep. So just make sure you put it in the chat, and then that way we can collect everybody's information and turn it into an email list.
Okay, thank
Yeah, you're welcome. And yeah, anybody else have any questions about stuff? Like I said, I don't know, a gazillion things, but I know how to find answers, and I have had the pleasure of interacting with tons of people who love to talk about hiking, like the 4,000 footer page on Facebook. I use those guys constantly. Like, let's say I want to go hike something this weekend. If I put up a note and said, I want to go hike Mount Bubble Butt, anybody been there? Immediately you'll get like 50 responses. I was there. These are the conditions. I was there. Bring this equipment. So hikey people love to geek out and share their stuff. The other thing that I wanted to mention was someone told me about this like a bit ago. Up in Peacham, Vermont last weekend, they did a series through the library, the Peacham Library. So it's Peacham. And if you go to the Peacham Library, and then on their main page, if you scroll down, they did this whole thing. It was called Wilderness Survival. It was all afternoon. It was Super Bowl Sunday. And I didn't care. So the first speaker was Ty Gagney. So you could live stream, which is what I did, because I was in New Hampshire and I'm like, ooh, I'll go to this talk in Peacham. And I realized where it was, and it was like nearly to Canada, So I'm like, I'll never make it back. So you can, if you click on the live stream, because they still have it up there, if you subscribe to them, you can find the video. Sometimes if you just did it, you can still watch it. So it was 4 hours long, but at least now you can click through stuff. So Ty Gagney talked for an hour. So anybody who doesn't know, so he wrote 2 books, and he works in what's called risk management. So he wrote a book called Where You'll Find Me, which was about a woman who is a very experienced world hiker, climber person. And she wanted to hike Madison and Adams in the winter. She had the wrong weather report. She had the correct gear, but was trying to go ultralight because she was trying to do huge mileage and in the snow. And except for this year, usually there's 10 plus feet of snow up there. This year, there is not as much. And so anyways, she had trouble with the weather. She had trouble getting to Madison Hut. She eventually was 4 hours behind. And what Ty Gagney goes into is this whole idea of the psychology of goal setting, and that coupled with risk management. So she made a decision to keep going, not knowing what the weather front was that was coming in, because she had looked at the wrong weather report. And she eventually, the title of the book comes from, she told her husband, who is not a climber and who was waiting for her down in the valley at a hotel. She said, you can send out these emergency beacons. She said, if I throw the beacon, which basically is a locator, she said, that's where you'll find my body. Like, I'm done. And she threw the beacon, and the guys went up that night after she had done that, but it was like 100-mile-an-hour winds, and it was snowing, and so those guys from New Hampshire Fish and Game went up to go try to get her, and they found her in between Madison and Adams, and she was actually frozen solid. It was that cold. But he goes into a wonderful description of how we set goals, and how sometimes it's like, no, I have to do this. I have to reach this goal, and how you won't turn yourself around, or you won't make smart decisions because of this drive, because of this goal setting. And that part of the book was that was fascinating to me. I thought I was just going to read this book about, oh dear, like after reading Not Without Peril, and I have friends that say, do you ever read books where people don't die? But fascinating, all about this risk management thing. So then he wrote a book called The Last Traverse. So during this talk he did up at Peacham, he told us a personal story about himself, that he had people reach out to him to hike. It was before he was as experienced as he was. The hike was supposed to be up Old Bridal Veil, Greenleaf, Lafayette, Liberty, and down. It was winter. There was a storm coming in. He didn't know the people he was hiking with, didn't know their pace. They had no conversations. They just knew him through somebody, and he decided to go. And he said, even that morning, he didn't want to go. Up on the mountain, he didn't want to go. And it was so he related his talk to these poor decisions that he made. And a week later, in real time, the two men he wrote the book, The Last Traverse, about were doing the exact same hike from the opposite direction. And one of them died and one of them lived. And it was all about weather and a storm and stuff. So he related his story to what had happened to these gentlemen. And then I don't know if anybody paid attention just to local news, but this winter, there was a young girl named Emily who died up there, same trail, very unprepared for what she did. And when you hike up Old Bridal Veil, it starts north, like you go north, 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 and then there's a hairpin turn that takes you back, and then you start to go up Lafayette. And she missed the hairpin. She didn't have a map, a compass. She had nothing. She kept going north. She never made the turn, and unfortunately wasn't dressed for the weather, and died from hypothermia out at Lafayette Stream, which was about 2 miles past where she should have been. She was hypothermic when they found her. So there's a lot that goes on up there. And even in the wintertime, it's nothing to play about. And there's been days where I've looked at the weather or whatever, and I've said, no, I'm not, like, why? During that super cold snap, there was a bunch of people that summited Washington, and I'm not there to judge, but I did want to almost write in the comments section, like, why? I don't know what they were trying to prove, but I mean, you want to hike another day, and the mountains will be there another day. It's not that big of a deal. So like I said, so this is just kind of the introduction. When I see people out on the trails, I will bore you with a ton more information if you want it. If you want, to ask me questions or check stuff, like I said, it's not that I have 10,000 years of, New Hampshire hiking experience. I have a lot, and I've been to a lot of places, and I've hiked a lot of things. So if I don't know the answer, or I'm not sure, I have no problem seeking out the answer. One of my best references is there's a gentleman out of Boston named Michael Blair. Michael Blair used to teach mountain leadership, which is a really badass hike leader training session that AMC does that unfortunately they don't offer anymore. You basically backpack up into the White Mountains for 5 days and do rescue scenarios and stuff. I was going to do it last year, and I emailed him and I said, hey, are you doing leadership training this year? And he goes, oh, they canceled it. I'm like, what do you mean they canceled it? I want to go this year. And just back, because I made all that noise about having a resume. I do have wilderness first aid. I've had it for 10 years. I do have CPR. I do, I've been leading hikes for 14 years. Not afraid to say I'm wrong, ask for help, or take advice or information from anybody else willing to give it. Some of that, though, I will filter. Sometimes you get someone tells you something wacky. You're like, I don't know if you're telling me the right story. But I believe I have enough experience to, run this kind of stuff. I do lead for Bill Rule's Adirondack Mountain Club. I have Hartford area hiking. I am an AMC leader. I just don't post on my stuff on their place. So yeah, if nothing, I've got good resources. So so I have that going for me. So if anybody has any other questions, you can ask them up. If you think of something, like I said, once I turn this into a YouTube, you can always scroll down to my info. If anybody wants a Mount Washington waterproof map that has the cool information, let me know. If you want to wait till you see me, you can do that too. And again, if you have any questions, please reach out. Like I said, this is what we do most of the time is we just geek out and talk about hiking. And I have people I work with that go, that's all you do? I'm like, yeah, I guess, but the views are always worth the effort. So, and I'll get into more detail about especially the Jefferson, Washington hike. Because what I need to do is kind of see how the group works out, because sometimes I get folks who are kind of natural leaders that will tell me like, hey, I'm cool leading everybody down. And I've hiked with them a dozen times and I'm like, that's cool. Or, so sometimes those things just evolve. So I'm not saying everything's a done deal. I'm saying things will evolve over the next 6 months for sure. All right. Anybody else? Okay. Yeah, Tracy, just make sure we've got your information. And like I said, we'll check, probably Colleen and I, and maybe Liz won't hang up for a bit so I can look through some of the stuff. So, yeah, if there's anything else that you guys need, just let me know. Okay. I'm going to stop the recording so nobody else is